It's true. I'm not dead. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Geek Show. And it's my first time on here in like fucking 7, 8, 9 weeks. And I spent those 7, 8, 9 weeks slowly fucking dying. But guess what? I'm back. I'm alive and I'm back and I exist and I'm here for everyone's enjoyment. Isn't that wonderful? Hi, I'm Spike.
I'm Kel, and I see that my assassins have failed.
You're gonna have to send better ones than that.
We have guests this week.
Yeah, I'm David Brothers, and I didn't prepare a funny intro. Just regular guy today.
Yeah, I'm Alissa Sallah. I also don't have a funny intro, so you're just gonna have to deal with our funny behavior.
Spike always doesn't warn me about what her funny intro is.
Never.
So I have to on the cusp think of a retort.
Yes.
So.
I like to keep them on their toes. Hello, everyone. Hi, Daryl. Hi, Jeffrey. Thank you for coming. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We have Alissa and David on because we have a crowdfund going right now, and they are participants.
They wrote about ghost crimes, or a crime that involves a ghost.
Yeah. Yes, and it is in Perfect Crime Party, which is funding on BackerKit right now. It's really cool. It's a collection of sort of people dreaming about, writing about, theorizing about the crimes that they think they could get away with, either, you know, fictional characters or maybe what if scenarios. It kind of runs the gamut from fantasy humor to kind of shoujo-esque to crime, like dark noir. It's got a little bit of something for everyone, and it is just a little bit over halfway funded on BackerKit with 3 weeks to go. And if you grab it, you can also grab like our entire collection of anthologies right now on BackerKit. We've got a lot of bangers.
The non-porn anthologies.
Yeah, the non-porn one. Frankly, I'm still a little annoyed and bitter to this day that New World didn't pop off like I felt it should have. So you can grab that while you're there. We've also got Sleep of Reason, which is fucking incredible. It's our horror anthology. You can grab that. And you can just like add it on to your pledge if you want, while getting Perfect Crime Party, which is amazing. And David and Alissa, do you want to talk about your contribution to the anthology?
Oh, that's what we're doing tonight?
That's exactly what we're doing tonight.
No, we're going to talk about anime.
No, it's actually a good segue.
My time to shine.
So it's called Polyphonic Funk, My Outlaw Melody, which is a long title because I like long titles, but it has like a little bit of flavor.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of a delinquent anime crime drama. Maybe crime comedy, depending on how funny the jokes are when you get to read it. But basically, the daughter of two incredibly successful juvenile delinquents back in the day, she wants to follow in their footsteps. Her mother does not want that at all. She wants her daughter to go to college, you know, like a regular person.
Sure.
And her dad is dead and a ghost and haunting her currently, kind of in like an advisory position.
Totally normal, totally healthy.
Yeah, no, it's great. No issues, no therapy needed at all. They sort it out really quickly.
Yeah.
And we kind of chart like the perfect crime for her. Like, what can she do to convince her mother that this is the right choice for her to make?
Yeah, that crime is the way to go.
Yeah, crime pays. Like, we know this. Her parents know this, but what can you do?
Hi, Allison. Hi, Alan. Hi, Netfisher. Thank you for coming.
But yeah, I really wanted to work with Alissa. We've been friends for a while, and I was actually looking at, I've got a bunch of original art from back in the day, and she did like an amazing Megalobox painting. And
thank you.
I don't know, she's just super cool, really talented at telling stories, and I thought if I'm going to do a crime story, like Alyssa's the one.
Oh, that's so
And David knows how to butter me up, apparently, so.
Alissa, I really liked your one-shot that's on the Viz website right now.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun to do.
Yeah.
It was a real pleasure to work with David on this, and then Hisashi-san on the one shot. So got to do some really awesome team ups this year.
The Waffle Shack thing is so good because it's like a small town kind of drama. Like, I don't know. I like how it's like in a very. I mean, I guess it's several small towns once you read
Hey,
it. Yeah.
Spike.
Yeah.
My screen is blank on the stream.
Oh crap. Hold on. Sorry. I keep not keeping track of what I can minimize and what I can't minimize when I do things. Hold on. I'm just doing a quick advertising. There. Boom.
Oh no, hey Spike, your social security number is available on the screen.
Ugh, again. Okay. Bam. Okay, that should fix it.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Now people can see the silly vampires that I'm drawing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Cool. There we are. Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked the Waffle House angle of your little one shot.
Yeah, I mean, working with that and on the project with David as well for this project is like I really appreciate stories that are kind of set in like almost like middle America or like kind of like offbeat small towns or just kind of like really like I feel like a lot of stories that are made are often set on the coast, you know, like it's like New York or the West Coast or like LA or something like that, and that's all people know about America.
Yep.
And I think that like it's really valuable to do stuff that's like deep America, you know, like not so much, you know, the showy, flashy international like America like image, you know. So I really like to be able to do stuff like that.
So does that mean that your favorite JoJo is the fourth JoJo story?
Oh, you're so close.
Heavy
No, it's
hitter
actually
already.
the fifth. Yeah.
Yeah. Talking
definitely Giorno.
Yeah.
Mob stories are the best. Speaking of crime.
Okay.
Yeah, talking strictly in terms of square mileage, most of America is extremely boring. That is true. It's like most of it isn't charismatic skylines. So I get where that's coming from.
But I think the charismatic skylines are, yeah, like the charismatic skylines are so kind of done.
Overrepresented, yeah.
Effectively, and it's like not as if that there's nothing going on in those spaces, but you would be surprised at the strange stories that happen, you know, in middle America and like the so-called flyover states, you know, like I'm like you have like weird like cryptid stories, and you know, like if you actually stop to take a chance to look at these places that are not so media heavy, you'd find that there's a lot of intrigue and interest to be had. Anywhere there's people, there's going to be something popping off.
Some kind of skullduggery.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel about the South like the way Alissa does about the Midwest, because I guess that's where we're, you know, she's from the Midwest, I'm from the South, so we're biased. But like, there's so much like magic, I think, in growing up in a small town, and not necessarily good magic. There's just so much like everything all around you. You know someone who can get you one thing, they know someone who can get you something else, and everyone is in everyone else's business. And it makes these kind of stories like super intimate and warm, I think.
For definition purposes, when you say small town, you mean smaller than suburbia?
My hometown got a Starbucks in 2008, and it was like a big deal.
Okay.
Wow.
Like that kind of small,
yeah,
like under 70,000-ish.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, cause so I grew up in a Massachusetts suburb, and it's one of those things where I feel like it was too big to count as a small town, but it also wasn't exciting.
Yeah.
Well,
suburbs by design aren't exciting, you know?
Yeah.
So an East Coast suburb is different than a West Coast suburb, because West Coast suburbs are that like planned cul-de-sac where everything is intentionally the same. And East Coast suburbs are a little bit more organic. That doesn't mean that they're more... That doesn't mean they're boring by design. They're just boring.
Yeah, no, I think suburbia is it's actually one of my like greatest fears.
It sucks.
So like the the book that I did for Iron Circus most recently, that was me writing, was set in my hometown. I don't say that it's my hometown, but I sent reference photos to the artists and they drew it accurately enough that someone did figure out exactly what I was talking about. And the whole thing is about how one of the characters thinks it's incredibly boring and can't wait to leave. And someone really got on my case for saying that, and was trying to defend my hometown to me as a place that's not boring for teenagers. But then everything that they mentioned that was exciting are things teenagers can't do. Like, they're talking about the bar scene, and it's like, yeah, you can't go to a bar when you're 15. Like, and they're talking about yeah, you can if you have a fake ID, but like basically like also it was small enough that people did know you, so you weren't going to get away with a fake ID.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, a fake ID wouldn't make much of a difference in a small enough town, because whoever's behind the bar would like look at it and look at you and be all like, John
You're
Smith?
so-and-so's kid.
Yeah. Billy and Sandy's boy? Nuh-uh, you were born 16 years ago. Get out of here before I call your grandma.
Yeah. So it's basically like they just gave me a list of quote unquote fun things to do in my town, and I was like, teenagers can't do any of those things that you just mentioned.
Yeah. Although I have to say, I do get the sense in sort of like aggressively defending your town, like that grows in you like a fungus after you live in Chicago for a while. Because Alissa, you were talking about like the oversaturation of the coastal cities. Like everything either takes place in LA or New York, it kind of feels like sometimes, and nothing happens in Chicago. And it's like, it gets to the point where if you live in Chicago long enough and you like it here, you actually kind of start getting offended. Because it's like, well,
I think Chicago's an amazing place.
Oh yeah,
like, it's like the New York of the Midwest.
Oh, it's amazing here. It's beautiful. It's wonderful, and we don't have a terrible mayor, but that's okay. And yeah, we're
them all.
Yeah, exactly. Oh God, I'm so sorry about all the East Coasters and well, I guess with California, it's more of a governor thing, but still, but yeah, I get the impulse to defend the town, like, overwhelmingly.
Yeah, so I was just like, you are wrong, sir. If you're a teenager in my hometown, it's boring. Like, things to do in my hometown if you are under 21 is acquire beer in a different town and then drink it in the woods. Like,
totally. And I definitely like I agree with you in that fact. Like but I think there's like a strange kind of person that can develop in those settings.
Oh, for
where
sure.
You are, when you are so I guess spoiled for choice, or you have a lack of choice, I guess, of what you can and can't do. Like there's not really much, options. I think it can really generate some of the most creative and interesting people and minds, because I think you can't just rely on going along with a scene or a culture that already exists, because there is no scene and there is no culture. So in order to have some sort of like a strong spirit will kind of create its own like adventures, I guess. Like when we were growing up in our small town, like we didn't have much to do, and so we would just go like play in the Walmart parking lot and like go and like ride bikes in like midnight inside the Walmart and like get in trouble and like do weird crimes. And I think it's just like, but there's also like an interesting kind of like you kind of ferment more in your like thought processes a lot in those places, because you're not so inundated with information and stuff to do that you kind of like are forced into a you're forced to, I guess, to, like, be somewhat more creative and like really make your own path in life in a way, I think.
I've got like a comics related thing where I didn't know that comics were for nerds until like I don't know, high school, because everyone where I grew up read comic books, and everyone wanted to draw, the X-Men. It was super cool. And so this is actually like really messed me up online, where I didn't have like the same high school experience as a lot of people. So I'm like, yeah, anime's always been cool. What are you talking about?
Right.
There was not a comic shop in my hometown, so no one read comics.
Ours was terrible. We traded comics. That's how we'd buy the packs from Toys R Us, like the 3 or 10 or whatever, and then pick out all the good ones and kind of like, well, this X-Force, maybe 2 of that Superman.
No.
Art's not as good.
Back right when the X-Men movie came out, for a very brief time, Marvel had the Ultimate Universe online free to read.
No kidding.
So I was that's how I got into superhero comics, is I was reading the Ultimate Universe free online. When that ended, they were like, hey, you can subscribe and get X-Men delivered to your house. So that's what I did. I never went into a comic book shop. X-Men came to me. And I eventually expanded, so I was reading all the X-Men. Yeah, so it was like I did not go to a comic shop. I just, I think I was the only one reading American comics in my high school. There were people watching anime, but there weren't really anyone reading American comics in my high school.
Yeah, pretty much same, except when it came to anime, I'm pretty sure I'm like the oldest person in here. So, what anime was when I was a teenager was, if you knew somebody who 9 times out of 10, the way you got it is somebody you knew had family who was stationed in Japan with the military. And what they would do is they would never take like custom orders, not our hookups anyway. What they would do is they would just record shit off TV, and then they would send that to you as a VHS tape. And they wouldn't even know what it was themselves because none of them spoke Japanese. They just had been begged by like their 14-year-old cousin, bored out of their mind in the Maryland suburbs, to please record whatever came on that was a cartoon and mail it through, the USPS, and you would get it. And what was so amazing about it, what was so mwah about these is, they didn't bother cutting out the commercials. So you wouldn't just get a cartoon you didn't fucking understand. You would get commercials you didn't fucking understand. And it was incredible. It was like you were through the wardrobe and into Narnia. It was the most surreal shit on earth, and we fucking loved it. And it was the nerdiest shit ever, and you couldn't really fight people when they told you it was a stupid bullshit waste of time, because they're like, you can't even understand it. And you're like, you are absolutely right. I have no idea what's going on. I just fucking love it. And I got I got turned onto it because I had a cousin who, my cousin was one of those guys he was clearly ahead of his time in that way, where God, I haven't talked to him in decades. I hope he's not like one of those, what?
I minus my screen again.
No, I didn't.
Oh, right now it's black. Oh. It might just be a delay.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's fine. It's not minimized. But yeah. Anyway, he was one of those dudes who was kind of ahead of his time in a way where, God, I hope he's not like one of these, salty Gen Xers now who is angry that the kids are in his yard. Like, I'm just hoping he's not like that. But he had the first copies of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and he had read them so often that the cover had fallen off, and he had just put that as a poster on his wall. And that was back when they were all in red. That was like Eastman and Laird, Stupid Joke, Triceratopses, April O'Neil's Brown, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And he also, when I was over at his house one time, he was like, do you want to see a cartoon? And of course I was like a literal child, so I was like, yeah, obviously. And he put in Akira, which I watched entirely too young, didn't understand any of it. But all I knew, because of course it was not subbed, it was not dubbed, it was raw. And all I knew is I was a person who was used to, at this point, like the Get Along Gang and shit like that. And the first thing he showed me was a cartoon where the first thing you see is a dog take a bullet. And I was all like, I couldn't even like comprehend what was on the screen. And everyone here has seen the opening of Akira, right? The man getting shot until he's basically paste. And like,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
he was showing that to like the tiniest child. And I didn't have time to recover from that because then immediately afterwards, gang fight. And it's like I didn't know what was fucking going on, but I knew it was incredible. And so that kind of that destroyed me and changed the direction of my life in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
Oh,
same
nice.
here. My grandparents were stationed in Japan before I was born, a couple years before. So my uncle was my gateway to anime and manga.
Ah, okay, so you get it.
So also, yeah, I got it when they were in the video store. We could just go out and like pick it up. We picked up Akira and Fist of the North Star for my first.
Oh no!
We made it all the way through Fist of the North Star. And
Oh,
we got to the
no!
climax of Akira. My cousin stitched to my grandmother. Was like, they're watching Blood and Guts in here.
Oh!
And I got dragged out of the room
Oh,
to go watch
boo!
family.
Oh no!
Boo!
But revenge on them. Now I own like 5 different editions of Akira in real life.
Yeah,
You own all
manga.
of comics.
Yeah, now it's the only thing I watch.
yeah.
But no, that's special, like the novelty
Uh-huh.
in like a very complimentary sense.
Oh,
of
yeah, yeah.
anime and manga was incredible in the 90s because, like you said, we had like G.I. Joe, which is like fine. This writing was okay, but then you see like literally anything from Japan, and the animation was so much better,
Yes, and it was
even if the story was much worse.
oh yeah, and it was illicit. It was like secret because you couldn't tell
Yeah.
your parents you were watching it because half the time it was shit like Legend of Overfiend or Wicked City or some shit like that. And like occasionally there'd be something that was like okay to let people know about, like God, what is that fucking thing? Robot Carnival, like something like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And
yeah.
it's like that was fucking trippy and cool and everything. Twilight of the Cockroaches, just things like that. And you'd watch that and you'd be like, oh, this is fucking incredible. But you knew there was shit you could like not tell people.
Yeah.
It was-
So I was the Toonami everything. So I know about Uranus and Neptune being cousins and all that.
cousins.
Yeah, cousins.
They were roommates.
And
Nudist,
just-
hi.
figuring out like that there were uncensored versions of some of the animes I was watching was fucking great. Adult Swim getting anime and having uncensored anime, I was like, excellent, give it to me.
I'm old.
That's where I watch my favorite shonen anime, Yu Yu Hakusho. It's still my favorite.
Yeah.
Because it aired uncensored on Adult Swim and then censored on Toonami.
Oh, Netfisher knows where it's at. Sci-Fi Channel, 4 a.m. anime block for the win. There was a fucking, oh my god, like there were so many experimental anime kind of like things that were on basic cable. And my personal favorite was Sci-Fi Channel's, back when it was Sci-Fi Channel, Saturday Japanime. That was the whole, and I still remember getting up at like 6, 7, 8 a.m. to watch this because the logo would just be like the flag of Japan, but instead of the central rising sun, it was the Sci-Fi Channel logo. And it would just like do this zoom out, this slow zoom out with the flag blowing in the wind and like the most announcer guy voice possible. Saturday Japanime, only on Sci-Fi. And I'm like, ah! And that's where I saw 8 Man After. Like, who even fucking remembers 8 Man After?
I do. There was a real game for it too. Yeah, that was great. It was like the most violent Kamen Rider looking thing ever. I guess more like Android Kikaider. But Kel, you mentioned Yu Yu Hakusho, and I know that you're a Kuwabara fan. I've got a Perfect Crime Party Easter egg for you.
Oh.
Yeah.
So when I was trying to come up with names for our characters in Polyphonic Funk, I was like, I should homage something. And I was thinking, you know, what could I do? And Kuwabara's first name is Kazuma, which means harmony, which is the mother's name in our strip, Polyphonic Funk.
Oh.
I did catch that. Kuwabara, best character in shonen, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's great.
He's best. I love him.
I used to go to, like, I go to anime conventions pretty frequently, and when I like, this is probably at least like it's probably like maybe 10 years ago at this point. There was a convention that like I would go to like every year effectively. There was this guy who would cosplay Kuwabara like to a T, and he had like the hair and everything, and he would just like you would see him and everyone would just be like Kuwabara, and he would do in the best like Kuwabara vase like Kuwabara, like the like full like
Great.
tsunami sounding,
Awesome.
and it was just like yeah, I was just like a special place in my heart.
I love him. He's great. I love that idiot.
The bit where he finds out that Yusuke is still alive is still one of the funniest things in all of manga to me. Like just his face, the drawing is just sensational.
Iconic character stuff work happening from Togashi on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alissa, were you Tsunami generation?
Oh yeah, as the certified Zillennial in the chat, I definitely I was past I was like in the pretty like Toonami kind of like explosion of like online fan subs kind of era of just like okay, now the kids are knowing what's up, like and so like I grew up like watching like Toonami like late at night, like Inuyasha coming on, and you just like sit there with like the
little commercial bumper that's just them going Inuyasha Kagome, Inuyasha Kagome,
and like those like Adult Swim bumps, like and like I guess like the like my biggest like influence at that time was like Cowboy Bebop and like Samurai Champloo, of those coming on the like on Toonami. And then like Full Metal Alchemist and stuff like that. So a lot of that like flavor and texture of like storytelling is like sits really strongly in me. And just like that like I think the Adult Swim bumps like flavor is like the best way to put it. Of just like this kind of like evening late night like lo-fi beats energy, but it's just like kind of like a jam and inspirational and fun.
Were you around for Witch Hunter Robin? Do you remember that one?
I was there. I did watch that one when that one aired. Yeah.
That is neuron activation. Holy shit. Wow.
I was like, oh, this is like this is what goth is like. I get it. Finally, after all of this.
Now
this is what the kids are into.
Yeah. I was, God, when I was like just getting into it, I had a friend whose parents were like those rarest of birds. They were like the adult anime fan in the early mid 90s, and they had laser discs. So, go ahead and date that. They had laser discs of Ranma 1/2. So we would watch a shitload of Ranma 1/2. And like legit subbed Ranma 1/2, like the real deal, not fan sub, nothing like that. And no commercials, and I just thought it was like luxury. I thought it was just the highest end shit you could get. And so I'd be watching that, and
you're like top hat and monocle.
I know, right? This is so cool. Like I didn't even know how they fucking got their hands on it. Like to this day, I don't know how they did that. But that's what we were watching. And also, I can't lie, I can't play true snob 100% to the hilt, because I am also one of those people that watched Robotech. Which apparently admitting that
ruled.
Yeah, and everyone's like, ew, how could you watch that? That's not Robotech, actually it's Macross, actually. Like,
how am I supposed to watch Macross? Like, come on, I've got a TV.
And it's like one of those things where I get where you're coming from, I hear your truth, and I respect your position, but you need to understand I watched this when I was like 9.
That's how I feel about Samurai Pizza Cats.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you understand what was done to it. You understand it's not authentic.
David, did you ever watch Samurai Pizza Cats?
Yeah, absolutely. I was living in Virginia when that was on. That was part of my morning before school rotation.
Oh, cool.
Maybe just after school. Yeah, it was maybe the wildest rewrite in anime history.
It's amazing!
Because it was like, I'm pretty sure they got like the tapes out of order and they weren't labeled or something like that.
There was an oral history about it, maybe it was before the Blu-ray came out. But like they talked about the production and stuff. It was really cool.
Yeah, because it was basically like they didn't know what the fuck was going on, so they had to make up what was going on.
Yeah, they watched it and then just wrote a script, and they got everything wrong, but they ended up making something that actually held together.
Yeah. Like the I don't know if it was passion or luck, but it was a very rare occurrence in like anime licensing. I can't imagine that
Yeah.
ever happening again. Like,
Oh
I don't know
God,
what
not
kind of-
now, not
Yeah,
now.
no, that would absolutely not happen now.
Yeah.
Because people would find the Japanese and like translate it themselves, or like,
And the fans, the original fans of it, who have already seen the fan subs and the fan dubs or whatever, would hunt down the production company and
Yeah.
actually eat them alive.
So, one of the mangas that I edit for Seven Seas is My Dear Friend Nakotan, which just got an anime.
Shiko noko 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 koshi tan tan. Yeah.
Yeah. So, people were accusing its translation of using AI, and I was like, as someone who edits the manga, it's like, no, it's just weird.
Yeah,
Like,
it's so fucking good. Okay, here's the thing, everyone. I don't want you to leave now, but when this is over, it's called in English, My Dear Friend Nokotan, dear spelled Deer, so it's a pun. And the Japanese name is Shiko noko 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 koshitan tan, which is just, I don't have time to explain that joke, but it's a joke. And the whole idea is it's a girl who has deer antlers and she is tormenting another girl who is like clearly kind of a tiger but not really, and forcing the tiger girl to join her deer club at school. It's really fucking good. and importantly, you can watch it for completely free on YouTube. So go watch Shiko noko 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 koshi tan tan.
But yeah, so and read the manga.
And read the manga, and read the manga.
Support my work.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, like, because the thing is like, when I was editing, and I was like, is there a pun in Japanese that I'm missing? And it's like, no, it's just weird. Like,
Yeah.
I would frequently like check with the translator, and it's like, no, it's just them being weird.
Yeah, if you are a fan of like Excel Saga or Puni Puni Poemi, and there's a fucking deep cut. If you like either of those, it'll be your vibe.
But like, my favorite joke is that she is hungry and is like, I'll have a snack, and then she pulls off her antler and opens it up, and there's a banana inside.
Banana this, yeah.
Nice.
And there is just
there's no
great.
pun. It's just weird. It's just surreal.
It's just weird. Like,
yeah. And by the way, if you haven't seen Excel Saga, you should probably be able to find it around somewhere. I definitely recommend it. It's one of those things where it's kind of training wheels, Japanese absurdist, surrealist kind of humor stuff. And the guy who is like the director for some reason has a huge part in it, and he's Nabe Sheen and his huge afro. And it's just about an alien, like a space prince or whatever, who wants to conquer Earth, but he only has two people helping him. And one of them is Excel, who is like this kind of like the archetypical anime girl with the one fang, kind of really excited, but really incompetent. And her partner, who literally dies all the time because she's always sick. She'll just be like lying on the ground in the background while the rest of the scene goes on because she's dead, and it just keeps happening over and over. Anyway, Excel Saga's good, and the same people made Puni Puni Poemi, which is about like a schoolgirl and is equally absurd.
The voice actor for Excel for the English dub blew out her voice halfway through the series, and I'm pretty sure she was replaced. While it was coming out on DVDs. She was like, "No, I'm done. I can't. This is too much."
I understand. I absolutely get it. Bobo is also Ping Pong Club Ping Pong Club was a weird one. I'm recommending all this fucking Jurassic anime, and for that I am sorry. But like, Ping Pong Club is
old shit's the best.
It's also absurdist. It's about ostensibly about a ping pong club. It's not really. It's like about a school club, and everybody in it is like a loser or an idiot or a freak. It's amazing.
Did you ever get into anti-humor anime?
No, explain.
So there's this show that I like a lot called Gooda Gooda Fairies, which is lowercase g, capital D, lowercase g, capital D, fairies. And the entire show, it's 15 minutes long. The first segment are 3 voice actors kind of riffing as like random fairy characters. So like a subject that they talk over.
I remember this.
No,
yeah,
I didn't
and then
see
the
this
last
one.
third of the show is those voice actors improvising bits based on what the producers give them, like in the studio. And it's maybe the dumbest thing I've ever seen, except when it's the funniest.
Oh, I love dumb shit. I should check that out.
It's
This
they
generation.
over the course of the season, like they create characters just by accident. Like they just have their go-to stock voices, and it becomes like an epic thing. Ah, it's so much fun.
Yeah, see, I always get a little self-conscious when I start doing like anime recommendation because I kind of, what's a good way to put this with offending the least amount of people?
Solo.
I think a lot of people they have that kind of anime phase where they first figure out, oh shit, you know, and they go for the really heavy stuff, like the stuff that's kind of Game of Thrones vibe, where anyone can die at any moment and everything is really fucked up and scary. And oh, look at this little girl getting mutilated. Look at this other little girl.
Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Well,
say.
it's not just Attack on Titans. It's a lot.
But no, that's why I said that's like the vibe that they
Yeah,
go for.
that's the vibe. They're all
gore.
like, oh man, it's so adult. The same way when you were 17, you thought like smoking was adult, or you thought, you know, working a 9 to 5 and coming home and being in a terrible mood was all really adult. And like it had this kind of mystique. Like, I'm grown up now. This is what I'm into. But like after I got over that, and I think I had mine kind of early with, you know, again, first thing I saw at anime was a fucking dog getting shot. You know, I saw all that. And I had that early and I kind of got that out of the way. And then I just went really hard in on the absurdist shit. And now whenever anyone's like, oh man, have you seen this one anime? No, what's about? Oh, it's about these little girls and there's this hole that goes to the center of the earth, and the deeper in the hole you get, the more fucked up and awful everything gets. And then
I watched that one.
Yeah, and then there's this dad. Oh, you don't like that one? Okay, there's this one about these orphans and they're being abused. And I'm just like, no, I'm good, thank you. And I just have like these poser moments where I thought you like anime. It's like, I do, but I can only watch so many children being fucking tortured before it's genuinely boring. I'm sorry.
But
You don't like the orphan
I-
machine?
Not a fan
Yeah.
of the orphan crushing machine desu.
I feel like
Sorry,
Spike.
this era's version of like the absurdist like Gouda Gouda fairies thing is definitely like Pop Team Epic. If
Oh, Pop
that's
Team
your-
Epic. Yes, I fucking love Pop Team Epic. Like, I like that shit.
Never forget Hellshay Kano.
Yeah.
Right.
um,
They just did a Sanrio collab, and it's the weirdest thing. Like, it's the most pure of characters, and then Pop Team Epic.
That sounds amazing. That's like Archie versus
Did-
Predator.
Yeah.
Surno just did a crossover with Junji Ito too, so it's like
Mm-hmm. Sanrio
They're-
knows what
they're-
side its bread is buttered on. It leans into it. It's good.
I right now I just care about Chainsaw Man. That's the
Fair
manga that's
enough,
consumed
fair
my life.
Fair enough.
There's a part where in the new arc where Denji is like, am I feeling depressed because I haven't jerked it often enough? Is that what's wrong with me biologically? Like, I was like, this is what I need in between horrifically gruesome fights,
Yeah.
is a teen wondering if his mental health is affected by the fact that he hasn't masturbated recently.
Oh, Alan Lord mentioned Odd Taxi. Odd Taxi was good shit. Odd Taxi is good shit. I loved Odd Taxi. That's
I
the
don't know that one.
Oh, it's so good. It's basically, first of all, you think it's like about furries because it stars like this walrus who is a taxi driver and he lives in this world full of animals, and he's very flat affect and no nonsense and kind of just a little melancholic. And the story is told through his fares, like all the people he picks up, and he gets entangled in this thing with this idol group, and it's a very long overarching plot. And it has a really nice reveal that I basically spoiled with the first sentence. He is not a walrus. He just has brain damage.
Okay, I just spoiled the whole thing.
Yeah.
But
Regardless of Spike's terribly horrible spoiler, it's a really good show, I think.
yeah,
but,
you can
like,
still
it's
enjoy it knowing that. You can still enjoy it knowing that.
It's like a Tarantino
Yeah.
kind of like play out. Like it's very like cinematic in the way it's written and paced, which is interesting because like it's not cinematically animated. It's very animated, very simply almost. But it's like
Yeah.
the way the storytelling is like very like it's it uses a lot of interesting film elements.
So Nudis is making fun of Spike. Bruce Willis is the ghost the whole time.
Rosebud is the sleigh, but you can still enjoy the movie knowing that.
that also reminds me of I was at Spike's house when the series finale of Mad Men aired, and we watched it together, and then Spike tweeted, did Mad Men seriously just end on, and then spoiled the entire ending of Mad Men.
Wow.
And it was like, it hadn't even aired on the West Coast yet, Spike. You monster.
But
that is cruel.
I'm better about it these days. My general rule these days is I let a year go by, because I figure if you want to see something super bad to the point where you make, like, you don't want to hear what the ending is, if a year has gone by, you should have seen it by now. That's is
funny.
Yeah.
Because my rule is that I'll wait for the hype to die down for a year and then watch it cold with no input.
And I would like
the yin and yang of spoilers over here.
Yeah.
So, David, what I usually do is I wait for the hype to die down. And if I'm still interested in it, then it's probably worth checking out.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But I also, if you tell me a spoiler, I am more likely to watch a thing usually.
Are we going to talk about Border?
No, we're going to talk about Sorry to Bother You.
Oh.
When I saw the trailer,
movie. Don't you dare! Don't do it, dude.
I'm not gonna say what the spoiler is. I'm just gonna say someone told me the spoiler in the middle of the movie, and I went from this movie looks interesting and I'll watch it eventually too. I need to watch this right now, and did, and very much enjoyed it.
You could, but I think you could convey the same twist without saying what it is. Like, you could be like, okay, so this movie, it starts off as like a comedy, kind of a social comedy that turns into a psychological yeah, I don't even know, like psychedelic
horror satire.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, interesting how that switches into that, and then I don't know. But yeah, glad that you still enjoyed that movie.
By the way, I am going to spoil it now because I really like the movie, and hopefully this will make people watch it. There's a movie called Border, and it's really good. I believe it is by a Swedish director, and it is about a woman who is she is a border guard. And
I remember the first time you told me about this and you were trying not to spoil it, and I was like, Spike, you've told me nothing that makes me want to see this movie.
Yeah.
And I basically forced you to spoil it because I was like, you have not told me anything interesting about this movie.
All right, just spoil it. Okay, so this is kind of what I told Cal. I was like, okay, so imagine that there's this border guard. She is in Scandinavia somewhere, and she is like super weirdly good at her job. And I'm not talking about, she gets the right hunch about people. I am talking about she catches a dude at the border because he smells funny. She goes through all his stuff. She then, like, in a secret compartment, finds a flash drive, picks it up, smells it, and knows there's CP on it. So there's something weird going on with her. She just knows this stuff. And of course, she is completely right every time. Also, about this woman, she is kind of unusually ugly. She is very short and squat, and she has a very coarse face with very bad skin, very protuberant teeth, really tiny beady eyes, and her hair is just kind of a haystack on her head. So she has a boyfriend who kind of takes advantage of her and is just spending her money and using her house as a place to get drunk, and doesn't really treat her with respect. Like, that's kind of what's going on in her life. And also, and anyone who understands Scandinavian shit might be figuring this out by now, she is really, 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 really terrified of thunderstorms, and no one can explain to her why. One day while she is at the
yeah. I was gonna say, I had my strange Scandinavian or like North European horror movie era back in high school. I don't know if I want to return to that kind of that's a dark place.
But one day while she is at the border, a man comes through that literally looks like he could be her brother. Like, they have the same weird features. And it's so weird, everyone around her comments on it. And he sees her and he smiles at her. And she's just horrified because she has always been the ugliest person she knows by, everyone's standards. And now here's this man who doesn't just have a passing resemblance to her, just looks like the male version of her exactly. And it's kind of crazy. and they start hanging out. And as the movie progresses, more information comes out, and what basically comes to pass, and here's the spoiler. Sorry, everyone. It's been more than a year. I'm allowed. She's a troll. She's a literal troll, and that man is also a troll. And they have been the subject of a Scandinavian government program to literally eliminate them. She's always been told she had spina bifida, so she had an operation when she was younger. No, they cut off her tail. She's a troll, and that's why she's scared of thunderstorms, and he's a troll too. And she had been raised by humans, and it just never occurred to her whatsoever that she was anything else. And it explains everything about her life, like the fact that she has an urge to eat insects. It's a really fucking good movie. And I believe it or not, I didn't spoil it. Yeah. It's good. Please go see Border.
Part of what made me be like, actually, spoilers are good, actually, is there is a sci-fi movie that I really like called The One I Love. And the marketing for it is the reason why it failed, because every single promotional thing is like, well, it's about a couple and their marriage is falling apart. So they go to this vacation home to work on their marriage. And I can't tell you anything more than that, or it would spoil the movie. And it's like, all right, well, you didn't tell me anything interesting about the movie. But in the first 10 minutes, the vacation house makes an idealized copy of their partner.
Their partner, but perfect, yeah.
Well, not perfect, but what they like sort of wish their partner was. So it's not perfect. It's like just slightly better versions of their partner. So like the version of the wife is she doesn't give the husband a hard time for eating bacon as much as he does, and doesn't like nag him for getting out of shape. And the more perfect version of the husband is he doesn't wear his glasses, he wears contacts instead. And like it's like little details, but there's not like idealized overly perfect people.
Yeah.
And so the plot is actually about, upon discovering this, the couple makes rules about how much time they can spend with the more perfect version of their partner, and then immediately break those rules. So it's like, well, their marriage is falling apart because they don't respect each other's boundaries at all.
Yeah.
And that's what it's actually about, is using this sci-fi concept to examine the real reason their marriage is falling apart.
Yeah.
It does sound good. I think
Jamila and I
am gonna have to disagree with you on that one, though. I think there is I'm neutral on spoilers, I guess. I think there is a value in like the fun of surprise and a journey, but also you don't need to be kind of like married to it, I guess. But I think that honestly that was just like a failure of marketing. like you can, everyone knows the twist of Stepford Wives, but you're not gonna market Stepford Wives like a romantic comedy or something. You're gonna be like, something is creepy in this town, and you want to like tease something out, but you don't want to tell the whole story. And
I
think that was just like a poor marketing beforehand.
I think for me, if it happens in the first third of a story, I'm like, that's not really a spoiler. That's the premise of the movie. Like,
that's a good way of looking at it.
Because like I said with The One I Love, it's like 10 minutes into the movie they find out about the doppelgangers. So the twists and turns that happen, I haven't spoiled for you, but that doppelganger thing is like the premise of the movie. And I remember when Cabin in the Woods came out, everyone was like, oh, it's great, but I can't tell you anything about it. And the ads all made it kind of look like a generic horror movie, and it's like, well, no, it's about a horror movie getting engineered. So that's like where some of the comedy comes from. But the people engineering the horror movie show up in like the first 5 or 10 minutes, maybe the first 15 minutes. Like, so again, that's the premise of the movie. That's not quote unquote spoiling
Right.
anything.
Everything, the rest of the movie kind of like is based on that versus like you've gotten to this far in the movie and this is the payoff, you know?
Yeah, I remember.
There's a difference between Bruce Willis is a ghost the whole time and Cabin in the Woods is about people trying to make a generic horror movie happen.
Yeah. I remember when Nope came out. There were a lot of people who were like, "Oh my god, the monster! Like Jean Jacket is incredible," and people were like, "Spoilers!" It's like, you know, there's something horrible. That's not a spoiler. That's clearly what the movie is about. The movie is clearly about something terrible is happening. So when someone goes, "Nope is incredible," the monster was incredible, they're not ruining anything. You know, there's a monster.
Yeah, Nope was like watching Evangelion in real life.
Nope was so good. Oh my god, I loved Nope. Oh, and like, all right, here's the thing. And if you haven't seen Nope, why haven't you? So I'm just gonna barrel ahead because it's been over a year, so all's fair. The thing that I think I loved more about Nope than anything else, and the thing that made me realize, I thought for a really long time I didn't like horror. And it's like, no, I'm fine with horror. What I don't like is movies that treat me like I'm fucking stupid. And treat the characters like they're fucking stupid. I don't like movies where the 6 horny teens go to the lake cabin and hear a weird noise outside and then go, "We should split up and cover more ground." Like that's what I
don't. That's the plot of Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, that's what I don't like. The thing I really loved about Nope was everything everyone did made sense, and that includes the idiot who kept the monster hanging around, because you didn't have to be told, "Oh shit, you are working through some really gnarly trauma and this is how you're dealing with it." And this is not a good way to deal with it, but I know people who deal with this shit in ways like this, where you're like, I'm going to just constantly recreate the most traumatic event in my life over and over and over and recast myself as the one in control of the situation. Surely that will fix me. And you didn't need that explained to you. Like no one sat you down with like a PowerPoint and explained these motivations. You just understood. And that's what I fucking loved about it.
And just the monster is
amazing.
Like, so many monster reveals are so like mid, and you're like, okay, I guess I don't care anymore. But that was like, oh, I want to know more about this. Like,
yeah, what is this?
Like Euclidean being. Like, what is this?
And the fact they had the guy from like the not Circuit City, the not Radio Shack, he came out and he set up all their cameras for them, and he was all like, "So you are not going to tell me what this is about, huh?" And they're like, "No, we are not." And he sat, and like the perfect moment when he just tears ass into the horse ranch in his van and jumps out and just stares and then turns around and goes, "It's still there." And they're like, "What's still there?" And he's like, he points and he's just like, "That cloud has not moved for 2 days." And it's like, it's one of those things it is so sublimely horrifying. It's not like cheap scare. It's like if someone told you that. If someone was outside your house and just pointed at a cloud and goes, "That cloud has not moved for 2 days," the shape of your fucking world would change. And that's what I fucking love about that.
I don't mind if characters are dumb as long as they're consistent in what they're dumb about.
Yeah. I get that. It's
I think Nope is a really good like movie because it's like kind of back to what we were talking about earlier at the beginning of just like these kind of stories that are not set in like the hustle bustle like the scene America. Like it's still like Western, which is somewhat like American famous, but it's like very like down to earth and regular people just kind of doing these regular jobs, and how they interact very naturally with something like cosmically like terrifying. And I think it's like that's why I love Jordan Peele movies, because it's like it really shows like how real people handle these sorts of otherworldly somewhat like event experiences that you'd go through. I don't know, like his stuff is so good, and I really
also liked in Nope there was that consistent through line about looking animals in the eye makes them feel threatened. And I liked that it followed like that would probably still apply even to alien creatures.
Yeah, Jean Jacket. and just the fucking, oh my god, and the cameraman they got, and how you didn't know much about him, but you knew enough so that even the most insane actions he took near the end made sense. Like,
Yeah.
like you knew enough that it's like,
That's
yeah.
That's what I mean by, like, if a character's going to make a dumb decision, I want that to be consistent.
Yeah.
Like, because that is very much a dumb decision that he makes, but you understand, like, he's doing it because he wants the perfect shot.
Yeah, and like he's got nothing to lose anymore. It's clear he's got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And I fucking also, and even like the most absurd thing that happened in the movie made perfect sense, which is Angel running into the house and grabbing a butcher knife out of the knife block in the kitchen and then turning around and going, "We're in trouble." And then hiding under the kitchen table. And it's like, that's not gonna fucking help, but it makes perfect sense he'd do it. It's just, Jordan Peele's just fucking good. He's just good. He's just fucking good. He's just really fucking good. It's really good. Everything about it is good.
Yeah, you can tell that he gets people and he experiences a world outside of just watching horror movies and watching movies and media, because his stuff always feels like it comes from a place of
authenticity.
Yeah, exactly.
Disney needs to give him gargoyles.
No.
No, huh?
Save him from the pop culture cycle, I think. Like, let him keep doing original stuff. I'm growing up into one of those guys.
He said that he wants to, so I was like, if he wants to.
Unfortunately, rules. So
can I be difficult for half a second? Half a second. I would like to be difficult. Okay. I am not by any means a Hollywood insider, and I am not posturing as such. I am the exact opposite. However, due to recent circumstances, I have had an extreme assful of what theoretically it would be like to be part of that cycle. And I opted out because that cycle fucking sucks. And so I can understand Jordan Peele maybe saying offhandedly he would like to kind of do a reboot on Gargoyles and kind of like remake them in his vision. But I fully understand why that is not a thing that would ultimately come to pass. Because the kind of strictures the people who own Gargoyles would probably demand would make it 3,000% not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Because nothing, especially considering these days, nothing new is really being... All right, here's a big problem, and it's a problem I see like literally no one talking about, and I hang around in like fucking comic and animation nerd circles literally all day, and I never see anyone talk about this to the extent I think it should be talked about. And here's the big thing. So, Pixar released a slate of movies, and yes, they were absolutely hamstrung by the pandemic, 100%, right? But at the same time, those movies were things like Soul.
They're all
and no, they were Soul. They were Turning Red. They were Luca. It was kind of like, for the first time, the head honchos over there kind of turned the reins over to maybe the people who were the second generation team, and it's like, okay, let's see what you can do. And they made some really interesting stuff. Like, I really enjoyed.
I think it's not just the generation thing that you're talking about, Spike.
Mm-hmm.
But Disney likes to keep its brand unique, and basically because Pixar movies before Soul were too close to Disney, like when they bought Pixar, the difference was Pixar's 3D and Disney's 2D.
Well, no,
but then Disney started to make 3D, so it became, what's the difference between a Pixar movie and a Disney movie brand-wise? So I think Soul and those are intentionally pushing them away from the Disney brand, so that way they could distinguish Pixar from a Pixar movie.
Okay, but that's not where I'm going with this. Where I'm going with this is those movies were all hamstrung by the pandemic. Some were released direct to Disney Plus. You know, some had really, really uninspiring box office performances. And this is for a company that needs to make $400 million out of the gate before they can even think about profit. And so if you're not doing that, you're kind of fucked. And when they gave people opportunities to make interesting and unique and personal stories, they kind of went me. And then recently, they released fucking My Emotions But People, the sequel, and it made $50 bajillion. And so what we are now going to be subjected to is Pixar / Disney, because Disney calls the shots, let's not even be funny about it, going, okay, so no more personal stories. You are now a fucking sequel factory. That is all you're going to do for the rest of your fucking life. And I foresee the next 10 years being an endless parade of sequels, because the stuff that was authentic only, and air quotes, only made $500,000 or whatever. And I think that's going to fucking suck for Pixar. I think that's going to fucking suck for people who like cartoons. And I think that's going to, on a certain level, kind of fucking suck for the people who really enjoyed that experimental phase that Pixar got to enjoy for half a second.
Right. But so that's what I was saying is, like, I was talking about the cause, and I think them pivoting away from that is, in the long run, going to really hamstring Pixar. Because if there's no difference between a Pixar movie and a Disney movie, they're going to just mush Pixar.
I honestly don't think... See, where I come from on that, and this is just my opinion here, where I come from on that is I honestly think the vast majority of the audience doesn't really give a shit. Like, I think the audience doesn't give a shit, and I think Disney doesn't give a shit. Like, if Disney movies start looking like Pixar movies and Pixar movies start looking like Disney movies, I think only nerds are going to care, and I categorize myself among those nerds. I do think that Disney executives care about branding. That is the reason that they gave for canceling Owl House. That is the reason why they cancel other stuff that, despite being successful, it's not on brand for Disney. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I think the executives care, not necessarily the creatives care. So I think that if Pixar becomes too close to Disney, then they're just gonna mush Pixar into Disney, and then eventually we will stop seeing Pixar movies, quote unquote. They'll just all be Disney movies. Yeah, I mean, I believe in my heart that, again, this is all just, I am sitting here reading tea leaves. I'm looking into crystal balls. I'm full of shit, so don't take any of this as gospel. But I think we have seen the high water mark for a lot of Disney stuff by now. I think, quite frankly, I think a lot of people are tired. I think a lot of people are tired of Star Wars. I think a lot of people are tired of Marvel. I think a lot of people are tired of kind of the Disney formula, because there was a time when the Disney formula was new and interesting and something you didn't see every day. And now they aren't even like making Disney formula shit anymore. They're literally just going back through the catalog and making everything look like a fucking render tech demo and then calling that a re-release. And they're running out of those. And I think that's being demonstrated first in their attempts, like, okay, here's a Haunted Mansion movie. Oh, that's not hitting. Okay, here's a Tomorrowland movie. Oh, okay, that's not hitting. Okay, here's a new Indiana Jones. Y'all like Indiana Jones, right? Oh, that's not hitting. It's like, I think most media companies, there are more misses than hits. Speaking from experience, there are more misses than hits, and everything runs off the hits. But I can't help but feel that a reckoning is coming.
This is only half a joke, maybe, but I think in our media post-apocalypse, I can't wait for Westerns to come back. Like, everyone loves horses, first of all. Like, that's an favorite.
Oh, I hate horses.
We'll have special ones with bicycles.
Yeah, just for Cal.
Off-road westerns.
Just for the horse folks.
I think there's like a lot of genres we've left in the past, let's say, that kind of ran their course before we came of age, that I think could be interesting nowadays in a way that, like, the sequels or whatever today maybe aren't filling the same need. because like the core of any Western is like I want something somebody else hasn't. How do I get to take it? Which is like crime movies. It's horror. It's everything.
And the bank's
like
gonna take the homestead would definitely resonate with a lot of people today too.
That one, and I left the army and they did not give me my pension or veterans bill or any of that stuff. Like that's a great motivation for a crime.
I mean, that's why I liked Golden Kamuy. That's basically a Western.
100%.
Is a Western.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, Golden Kamuy is one of my favorites. I just bought some Golden Kamuy themed perfume.
Yeah.
Does it smell
like
dust?
It's Botaro flavored, so it smells like sexy man.
Great.
I do really appreciate like the like adventure, like the take of like genre in a different context. Like it's totally a Western, but it's not set in like West America, and I really appreciate when like different, like you take the merits of a genre but put it in a completely different setting, but like once you unpack like what is happening and like break it down to its like core elements, it's like, oh, this is exactly a Western, even though it's like as far east as you could go.
Yeah.
I think that's why sci-fi Westerns have done, like, while we haven't gotten Western Westerns, we keep getting sci-fi Westerns now and then.
Take my heart, take my hand.
Sci-fi Westerns were fresh back when it was done in Star Wars the first time, but then everyone started copying Star Wars, and now everything is a sci-fi Western, and it's just so like derivative of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a movie rec on the Golden Kamuy front, like mentioning that it's a Western. So like Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven is a classic, like one of the best, yada yada, blah blah blah. There's a Japanese remake set in Hokkaido, basically around the same time. Because while the U.S. was kind of trying to annihilate its indigenous population, Japan was as well.
Oh, I knew.
So it's like the same movie.
Yeah.
There's just very few like cultural changes, and it's kind of cool to see that amount of overlap in a story like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think
we're going to remake this, and it's
you know what else has an interesting kind of parallel version that exists in another country that has the same vibe exactly? One of my fucking favorite musical films of all time, Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
I love Hedwig.
I fucking love Hedwig. I can
do Origin of Love by Karaoke Blind.
Oh my god, I tormented my husband for like a year after seeing that film, but just singing Origin of Love at him. But here's the thing. For folks who don't know, Hedwig and the Angry Inch is a movie about when East Germany and West Germany were still separated by the Berlin Wall. And East Germany was communist and West Germany was capitalist. And in East Germany, I can't believe I have to explain this. I'm so old. Anyway, in East Germany, there was a little German boy who wanted desperately to not live in a communist country anymore. And as he grew up and became a twink, he caught the eye somehow over the wall of an American serviceman. And he began developing this idea together with the serviceman about how he could escape East Germany. And the most common way back then was, if you were an East German woman, if you could find someone on the other side of the wall to marry you and bring you over. That was not possible with same-sex couples back then. So what this little boy did is he went and he got a sex reassignment surgery on his mother's kitchen table. So it wasn't a good one, but it worked just long enough for him to pass the physical and marry his husband and escape to the West. But the surgery did not work, like I said, and everything sealed back up, leaving Hedwig with an angry inch. And very soon after moving to America, Hedwig's husband turned to them and went, "Oh, hey, here's the thing. You were just kind of like this useful tool for me to understand and finally accept my own homosexuality. And you are a woman now, and I'm not attracted to women. So, bye." So, yeah.
Also, Spike.
Yeah.
It was a musical first.
Yes,
stage musical.
I do know that. Yeah. And so the whole movie is about Hedwig coming to terms with this life they have made for themselves, where they are basically presenting and being referred to as a woman, but they aren't. They aren't. They were someone who did this to themselves to escape East Germany. And there's more to the movie than that. Like, there's a lot of plagiarism stuff going on too, but that's like off to the side. But like, Hedwig is like it's so fucking good. Now, Hedwig and the Angry Inch as a stage show has caught on in a big way in another place. South Korea. It is totally like it's basically Mad Libbed to take place in North Korea versus South Korea, but it's the same story. Cool. And they have absolutely just fucking grabbed it with both hands, where it's like a North Korean twink who really wants to live in South Korea, is convinced that's where his real life is, and then he marries an army officer from South Korea who brings him over and then goes, oh, what? Turns out I'm not into chicks at all, bye. And then kind of has to figure out a life for themselves, you know, in a body they didn't really want, abandoned in what they thought was going to be a paradise, but it's definitely not. And just, it's so, if you just look up like the South Korean Hedwig and the Angry Inch, you'll see what I mean. It's so fucking good.
It's funny. It is catching on lately too. Like I saw it back in college for the first time during like film studies class, and then like I loved it since then. But I didn't feel like very many people knew about it. But like now I think more people like know about it, and it's like it's got its own like redone. They put on a performance in Japan starring one of my favorite musicians called Avu-chan of Queen Bee, and she is a half black trans woman in Japan, and she's done a lot of amazing, like, I mean, her music is first and foremost like what I love about her, but just like the artistry that she has throughout her whole career is amazing. And just seeing how like she goes and does like Hedwig is amazing, because she also does a lot of like gender play too, not just, you know, like she just isn't just like kind of one side to the other. It's like really it's really interesting to see like these different like kind of pieces of media like cross cultures and ways that are like everyone can kind of relate to in their own ways, like, and I think that's why like it's so cool to see genres interpreted across like location, because like you said, like it South Korea versus North Korea, like you had the Berlin Wall back in the back, like so much of all of people and humanity were also like, we all share so many similar experiences and connections that like once you take yourself out of a sense of place, you'll still find so much relatability, you know, like you could go thousands of miles from where you live, but you would still meet someone who could remind you one-to-one of like a friend or a cousin, you know, like, and I think that's just like the universal nature of like how we are as people, and I think like seeing more of that, it really is like a bright like kind of way to like interpret it.
100%. That actually, this is a weird ass segue. That actually makes me think of Delicious in Dungeon, which is here's the thing. It's like, I've watched it. I don't think it's for me, but one of the things that I really enjoy is looking at the manga and looking at the artist's interpretation of what we would typically think of as Western fantasy, because there is definitely a fresh spin on it there. And I'm like, the thing that really kind of caught my attention for the first time is the dwarves in Delicious in Dungeon have phones. Which is like, like in America, we focus on them occasionally having guns, like powder rifles and stuff. But like, you know, in Delicious in Dungeon, they have AT&T apparently, which would make sense. You know, if anyone's going to have them, it would be them. Well, maybe the gnomes too, but still.
Yeah, all the tropes and stuff around adventuring and that kind of fantasy genre is interesting in Japan, because there's like, it's parallel development, parallel evolution. Is that what it's called?
I think,
anyway, Dragon Quest influenced a lot. Like novels in the 80s influenced a lot. Record of Lodoss War started out as someone's tabletop RPG.
Oh, now
like, I've got something here.
Oh, what I think is fascinating is kobolds. I was looking into why this is, but kobolds in Japan are dog people. But if you read like a D&D thing or something inspired by D&D, kobolds are little dragon guys.
Yeah.
And what it is because like whatever D&D manual that they were introduced, the drawing was really vague. And then like, so clearly Japan decided that's a dog, and Western people are like, they're little dragons. And so it's sort of like, that's sort of where the divergence came, and I think that that's fascinating.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
also really prefer the Delicious in Dungeon orcs, which are kind of like piggy. I like those orcs.
A lot of orcs in anime are piggies.
Yeah, and I prefer that because, and forgive me, I'm sure this is something I've said before because it's a thing that's kind of I can't fucking escape from as a person who is a fan of fantasy. There is an issue occasionally in Western fantasy where green just means brown, and I get that little eye twinge whenever it's like, oh, here are the orcs, and the orcs are they're coming on stage, they're coming, to the battlefield or whatever, and like, oh, they've all got dreads. Are they literally wearing leopard skins? Oh, they've got pierced noses. It's like, I don't, like, do you see it? Like, I can't be the only person who sees it, is what I'm thinking. And I'm not saying, they all do that, obviously. Like, quite frankly, it was very refreshing that the Lord of the Rings did what they did. Like, the movie, the Peter Jackson stuff, it was like, oh, thank fucking God. But I see it kind of more than I'd like to. And what's nice about sort of the Japanese filter over the orcs is I have yet to see it there.
I think the orcs are pig people just because of a pun, because it rhymes with pork.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Nice. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Wizardry was one of those games, settings, franchises that influenced a lot of like Japanese adventure stuff. I know it's an influence on Dragon Quest for sure.
Oh, yeah?
If you want to dig deep into that, like it's this cool like cross-cultural, maybe cross-cultural, like bouncing back and forth across the shores influence, and seeing people today who are influenced by Delicious in Dungeon or Final Fantasy who only know these creatures as these creatures. Like, Bahamut is like a reference to a real life concept, not necessarily just a Final Fantasy dragon.
Yeah.
Like, it leads to much cool,
like a religious concept.
Yeah, cool interpretations maybe.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, and I think that's like really like coming back to just kind of like what we were doing with the story and the anthology. It was kind of cool to see like a delinquent take of like delinquents, but it's like similar like vibe, but like American version of it. So it was fun that you wanted to do that, David. I appreciated that. It's because it's like I said, it's like, like we have our delinquents here, like, and like there's like, you like if you get kids from like the middle of nowhere, delinquent kids from like the middle of nowhere, like Japan, in the middle of nowhere, like America, they're probably gonna hit it off pretty well still. Like,
they're just gonna want to race cars and hang out and give each other dirty looks.
Have you all seen Hunt for the Wilder People?
I have been meaning to. I have not.
In the very beginning, they're listing the main kid's quote-unquote crimes, and it's like shoplifting, spitting, hanging about.
Yeah.
Chilling.
Yeah.
No, I agree with Alissa. If you grew up near the woods, like you could go to the woods. I think you had a different life than a lot of people you might know as an adult.
There's
something just fun about that.
Yeah, I did not grow. See, it's kind of weird. I want to say I didn't grow up in the woods. I did though. I just grew up in like the kind of woods where it's the suburbs and everyone kind of had a half acre of woods to themselves and you didn't talk to your neighbors.
See, I would argue that that's not the suburbs. That's rich people don't want neighbors.
That's entirely fair. That's entirely fair. And I was so fucking bored. Because we had the woods. We just didn't talk to each other. So nobody did anything in them.
Oh, we had a barn in my backyard.
So that sounds cool. That sounds cool.
Less cool David, on Saturdays when you want to watch X-Men and you have to mow the lawn instead.
Oh,
Sorry, Alyssa, what did
David,
you
you
say?
talking about the South was really interesting though. Like I think there's like a really interesting like energy in the South that like I feel I went to New Orleans once and I came back with a curse, I think. And I really appreciate whenever something is set there like too. It's because you get really like a lot of like history and texture of America that you don't see anywhere else. But like there's so much like it's like I really loved Interview with the Vampire because it was like this like weird like southern kind of like
Yeah.
place like, and I was like, oh, this makes 100% sense that it would be like this would be a place where vampires would be. And so it's like I like love like that kind of like seeing what these elements of of genres are, how they are affected when they are placed in different locations, because those locations color things so much more interestingly, I think, in different ways. Like, you know, of course you can pull like vampire lore, you know, similar, like the similar problems that would have happened in like Eastern Europe or something, where like a lot of this vampire lore, like as we associate it with, I guess now, is comes from like a lot of that same stuff you find in like the South, and probably worse. And like there's really more more to explore when you kind of set it somewhere else, and like, and it's cool. I appreciate that.
I'm watching 30 Coins on HBO, which came out, I don't know, like 4 years ago probably. But it's set in rural Spain, in this tiny village. And part of the reason is that, like, Spain is very Catholic, but it's very pagan as well.
Yeah.
And the further you get from the big cities, the more, you know, weird stuff you might come across, the more people you'll meet who might believe in something that's older than Christianity, maybe, or something like that.
Right.
The show plays with that a lot, because all the villagers are like, we can't tell anyone that this baby was born from a cow because they'll call us hicks and that we faked it. They're like, dude, the baby was born from a cow. Like, worry about that first. You know?
Yeah,
so good. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that vibe.
Is
the vibe
David,
that
is 30 Coins about Judas?
Yes.
Okay.
They have to collect all the 30 coins as like a apocalypse plot.
Oh, I have to check that out. But yeah, that makes me think, again, bringing it back around, that makes me think of Nope, because you don't have to wonder at any point in that movie, why didn't they go to the cops? Like, you don't even like, because that's like a thing that keeps irritating me about a lot of horror, that so much of it relies on everyone being really fucking stupid and not doing the most sensible thing. And in Nope, you never wondered why they didn't go to the cops. Because imagine trying to explain what is happening to you to a cop. You know, it's like it's.
Also, even if they believed you, they're not going to do anything.
Yeah. What could they do? What could they do? Yeah. I just really like that.
Yeah.
And I think it was interesting, like what you say with Nope too, about his other like when the cop shows up at the end of or not, was it Us? Oh gosh,
Get Out.
No.
Get Out. Yeah, all these movies
Out.
have some really short names, so I started getting them confused. Get
Out.
All the real people. Yeah, you're gonna put it all together. It's gonna be a cinch. Wait a minute, you're onto something.
Yeah.
When he like shows up at the end of that movie, and you're just like, oh, like the person, like in my perspective, I was like, oh no, and then like I feel like in someone else's perspective, who maybe not, you know, be from where I come from or who I am, might be like, oh, a cop, now they're safe. Like,
yeah.
I think
Nope.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that shows his like writing chops too, of just like how these systems aren't just like, oh, if a monster's chasing you, or if some bad people are gonna get you, just rely on cops or the system. Like I that's why I love his mind.
One of my favorite plot lines in a supernatural TV show is so there's a UK show called Being Human, and the second to last season ends on a cliffhanger of some like government guy taking a supernatural thing and putting it in like a big facility, and you think like, oh, so next season's gonna be like Men in Black but with supernatural stuff. But instead, the last season starts with that guy in the cliffhanger getting called into his superior's office and being told, so we're doing budget cuts, and it turns out no one knows what your department does, and you have unlimited budget, so we're cutting the whole thing. you're fired. Everyone that works for you is fired. You need to get rid of all the stuff in your warehouse.
Yeah.
And how, like, even if there was sort of a system to deal with monsters, like, it's not gonna be like they have a blank check to do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah. That's also reminiscent. I want to say it was an episode of the X-Files. Someone watching is an absolutely fucking feral X-Files fan. I can sense it in my bones. And they're going to correct me, and they're going to do it instantly. But I'm pretty sure there was an episode of the X-Files where they, like, literally fucking straight up found the Ark of the Covenant or something. And at the end, there were no fake outs. There were no, you barely missed it. It got away. No, they actually got it. And, like, Mulder and Scully were, like, in their supervisor's office, and they were doing the whole debrief. And then Mulder was just like, okay, so, like, what now? Like, we have this amazing artifact. Like, what's going to happen? And their boss just kind of goes, it's being handled. Don't worry about it. And, like, the last scene you see is some random Joe Schmo with a hand truck. And he is carefully slotting the crate the Ark of the Covenant is into a space on a rack in a giant dark warehouse. And he just pulls his...
Sounds like a thing that is not X-Files, but is a different supernatural, like, government show.
And it might be. I thought it might have been X-Files, but I just know that they find it and it just goes in a warehouse, and the guy just turns around and leaves, and you see the warehouse is gargantuan. It's like airplane hangar size, and it is full of these boxes like identical to the one the Ark of the Covenant is in. So you don't know who has it, you don't know where it is, you don't know what other unknowable horrors this organization is storing away in this anonymous warehouse, and you never hear of it again.
Yeah, that's basically the plot of Warehouse 13.
Yeah.
That scene, but as a TV show.
Yeah.
Like,
But hey, before I utterly dominate the conversation, since we're talking about sci-fi shows, Alissa, David, do you have sci-fi shows that you absolutely hate from the bottom of your heart, got canceled, or didn't get picked up for a new season?
Oh, man.
Like, you wish every day you could have had another season of it.
Maybe I wish Twice a Year that Raised by Wolves was still on TV.
Oh.
That was really fun. It was Ridley Scott's HBO project. I think he produced it and directed the first couple episodes, but it was sort of colonizing robots in space during a religious war. Like, the robots get there first, the humans are on the way in a colony ship, the robots are kind of preparing the way. And then they just discover a bunch of wild stuff on this planet. There's virgin births, there's murders, there's like a bunch of adopted kids and their robot parents. It's really fun.
Yeah,
I think maybe too messy for HBO. I don't know. It was great.
Yeah, I remember the ads for that one.
Oh, and my guy from Vikings, Ragnar, was in there. I love that.
Yeah, I honestly don't have very much. Like, I don't watch a lot of TV, if I'm being true.
Oh, no, that's fair.
Honest.
That's fair.
Mostly a movie, and yeah, I'm too busy drawing comics and doing illicit things.
I'm also glad that neither of you said Firefly, because that show's garbage.
Yeah.
Oh, I figured out I didn't like Joss Whedon with Alien Resurrection.
No, don't fucking talk about that movie. Oh, I'll let go.
I think that would not get someone to realize they don't like Joss Whedon, because Joss Whedon also doesn't like that movie.
Ah.
I am much more petty than Joss Whedon.
But so, like, well, he's like, the director ruined my movie. Like, his yeah. I think yeah, that's just I'm a big Buffy fan, but Firefly has aged like milk left in the sun.
I honestly haven't seen it in ages.
Well, you don't need to unless you really want Southern Civil War propaganda in space.
Oh, right. He is a failed rebel. I just remembered that. Okay.
Yes, the South will rise again, but in space.
God, I'm sorry. Sometimes I think about, wow, that there are some people who really like that narrative, don't they? They really like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I put a lot of thought into that, actually, the whole Lost Cause thing.
Yeah, a whole lot of
get
thought.
it intellectually, like, it's an underdog thing. Like, all right, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of fucking gross how into it you are.
Yeah.
For my part, there is this, and I bring this up at least once a year, so you're all gonna have to fucking sit through it. There was this movie, not a movie, I'm sorry. There was a mini series that was on Sci-Fi Channel, and it was clearly kind of spinning up to be a full series, but it never happened. And it was called The Room, and it was basically about this motel room that was separated out of time and space, and it was just on Route 66, and it was in a very unspecial anonymous motel. A occurrence happened in the universe that kind of slid this room, this one motel room, out of alignment with the rest of reality. And there is this entire like government task force assigned to figure out what is just called the room. And here is the deal. Like when I say it's like not in alignment with the rest of reality, there are so many people who want to find this room and get in this room and take things out of this room because, for example, there's a pen that was in the room. And if you tapped this pen against a table, between 1 and 5 cents in pennies would simply appear in front of you. There was a umbrella that could make everyone around you treat you like you were their best friend as long as you were holding it. Like things like that. And so a lot of the artifacts from the room were extremely powerful. And over the years, a lot of them had gone missing. And the entire miniseries was about a guy whose entire job was to hunt down the artifacts from the room and put them back in place in the room. And something was going to happen when all the lost artifacts were back in place. And part of his motivation was at some point, I believe, his daughter had gone in the room and disappeared. And he suspects she is with who is referred to as the resident. So the person who was in the room when it slipped out of space-time. And it was so fucking weird and so interesting. And like, and yeah, people who remember it are talking about like other things that were in the room. Like, there was a bus ticket where if you used it, you know, it would drop you off at the exact same spot along the highway next to a telephone booth every time, like 2 feet in the air. So you would always fall. But like, it was like just such a fascinating idea to me. This idea, this guy was hunting down these weird artifacts that people had stolen from this weird hotel room, and that they all did strange things that didn't necessarily make sense. And I really fucking loved it. And they just kind of let it dangle at the end. They didn't tie it up. It was clearly supposed to move on to series, and it never did. And I'm mad about it to this day.
Have you heard of Room 104, also on HBO?
I have not. What is Room 104?
It's a TV series, an anthology series by whichever one of the Duplass brothers was in a movie with Aubrey Plaza. But each episode is set in the same hotel room, Room 104. And every episode is a different genre, different story, different characters, new director, new writer.
Okay.
There's horror stuff in there. One of my favorite episodes actually starts with a guy. He's like on a school trip. And he calls his mom. He's like, "Mom, I need you to print something out for me and mail it to me." So it's like tech support over the phone with his mom. Mm-hmm. And it ends with everyone in tears, like familial revelations, like emotional resonance. There are ones where people fight through reality or like come back to life. Brian Tyree Henry does like a musical episode that's really good. It sounds like the room from The Room could be the room from Room 104 as well, with all the wild stuff that goes on.
Okay. And
there's like 4 seasons. You could watch it like any episode at random. Just look for an actor that you like and go for it.
Yeah, now that they're starting to bundle, now that they're not expecting me to pay $16 a month for each individual service, I've been considering getting one of those HBO bundles. because there's another show that's currently airing on HBO that was like a hole made for me. And if you don't know about this show, everyone, it's called Chimp Crazy, and it's by the same guy who did Tiger King, and it's about women who own these incredibly fucking dangerous animals, and not a one of them are normal, as I'm sure you could have guessed. But like it's so fucking good because you see their damage on full display, and you see it's like these are women who talk about how they love their pet chimp more than they love their flesh and blood fucking children, because the chimp won't ever move away and start its own life.
Until it eats her face.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's so disturbing, and it's so good because everybody knows about Charla Nash, the woman who got her face ate by Travis the chimp. That's just one person who got their face ate by a chimp. Like, there's a bunch you don't know about. And like this series talks about it, and like it's like PETA's involved, and like it's oh my, it's so fun. Oh, all right, like the main woman in Chimp Crazy, I said this on Blue Sky, she is like an Amy Sedaris character. So if you know who Amy Sedaris likes to play in like live action stuff, you have a good idea. Imagine a woman who's kind of early end of elderly, like 60s maybe, empty nesting. She insists on wearing the most ridiculous, like butt length platinum blonde wigs that are clearly wigs. At some point she has clearly gotten very outlandish breast implants. She also gives herself lip injections, and she says so that they look natural. They do not look natural. And she has eyelash extensions and permanent makeup tattooed on. And she dresses kind of like what would have been sexy in the 60s. Like, it's kind of dated. And it's really interesting seeing her act like this is all a totally normal way to be. Like, this is all on top of owning a shitload of monkeys and a chimp. And so she's very much a character and very strange. And I don't want to say dumb. I don't want to call her dumb. But she does a lot of really fucking dumb things. And just watching this person
She purchased a chimp, so...
if only that was the dumbest thing she does in this series.
I'm just saying that is a sign of poor decision making.
Yeah, and there's just a lot going on where you're like, are you good? And like the answer is no, she's really not. But yeah, if you're not watching Chimp Crazy on HBO, I strongly recommend it. It is ridiculous. If you made up a woman like her, people would say you were being insulting and ridiculous and over the top.
I on HBO am watching The Righteous Gemstones.
That's on my to watch list.
That's great.
Also a great
It's
Southern
very
show.
it's very funny that because all my friends are monster fuckers, when the Fallout series came out and everyone wants to fuck the ghoul, I just kept thinking of him as Uncle Baby Belly. So I was like, I can't get on this train with you because I'm just thinking about Uncle Baby Billy. And there's nothing you can do to not make me think of that. Him and his toilet child.
It's rough. I showed that show to someone who recently, they were recovering from surgery, and they legit almost busted a stitch. Like, we had to pause the episode and come back to it later. The season premiere. Oof.
Yeah.
My favorite character is Keith.
Keith tries so hard to be a good guy.
He tries so hard. Spike, the best description of this character, Keith, is a reviewer said, Keith is like someone who is wearing skin for the first time.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
That is how awkward he is.
That's incredible. Righteous Gemstones is one of those things where people are like, you'd like it. And I'm like, I believe you. But, okay, so like the way I work, 9 times out of 10, I'm spending my entire day wishing I was dead, but also writing emails and taking phone calls and having meetings. Like that's my day. I wanted to be a cartoonist. This is what I ended up. Hooray. And when I'm doing that, I have entertainment open in another window, but it's not the kind of entertainment where you can sit down and watch it and give it your undivided attention. So I'm not doing this with like Ghibli films or Everything Everywhere All at Once or something. I am doing this with.
You could probably work with Righteous Gemstones on.
Yeah. But what I am watching while I am working, I don't know what everyone else's YouTube experience is like, but here's something I found out. Because of the Freedom of Information Act and the adoption of police cameras for between $150 and $75, depending on the jurisdiction, you can just buy police cam footage after a certain point of pretty much any arrest. And there are channels out there on YouTube that do literally nothing but repost cop cam footage of like craziest arrest, or Karen gets what's coming, or shoplifter gets caught at Walmart. And those usually have just enough fucking drama, but no need to look at the screen, that I can have it open on the screen while I'm writing an email. And that is like, I am sad to say, maybe 40% of the entertainment I take in these days.
Oh, I just watch YouTube essays.
Yeah.
To the point where H Bomber Guy's pathologic video called me out.
Oh yeah.
There's a part where, not personally, but he was like, he read out the title caption that was on the screen, and he was like, if you're wondering why I am reading out what the title card says, that is because some people only listen to my videos.
Yeah.
I worked really hard on the visuals, but that's okay, I guess.
Yep. That's true. Although I have to say, because I'm watching certain videos, I get served other certain videos. And this is just an observation. I'm not interested in extrapolating further on it. But oh man, a lot of people were just waiting for Mr. Beast to fuck up, huh? Because I don't even watch that shit, and I am constantly being served the end of Mr. Beast videos that are like literally an hour long. And it's like, never have I cared that much. Never have I given you any hint that I care. And yet here you are on my For You page. What is happening?
I mean, but clearly you watch other drama YouTubers, because that's why they're telling you about Mr. Beast.
It's all the cop shit. And I don't think Saberspark would do it, but Saberspark does talk about some stuff. But anyway.
Alissa, do you work to music?
I do. I mean, it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm working like on scripting or layouts, like things that kind of require like narrative or like aren't just kind of I guess automatic like drawing is. I do listen to music. But if I'm doing like line work or something like that is more it's just a physical act, then I will put on like some video essays, podcasts, and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, music, I try to set the music I listen to like fit the tone of what I'm writing.
Yeah, catch up.
Alissa, that's how I break up my work stuff, is because I can't read while someone is talking. So if I'm watching a YouTube or listening to a podcast or an audiobook, I won't dick around and read social media or fall down Wikipedia holes when I'm supposed to be drawing. But for writing, it's music, and I turn the internet off. So I'm not gonna get distracted by anything.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
It's music for me, but I don't think I match the mood. I just put on something I kind of know but don't have to pay attention to. Like I won't be surprised by new lyrics necessarily.
So an album.
So
I try to match
1,000
the mood.
times, yeah.
I think it helps me to like feel like a rhythm and a flow to like writing, or like to like pacing out a story. If I match it to like if I'm making like a kind of like a something that feels like
a
prog
soundtrack.
rocky, then I'll like try to like soundtrack it, so that I'm like, oh, like this needs to be more energetic, and like if I put something kind of like calm and relaxing and slow on, then I can't really get into like the vibe of like, I don't know, if someone's doing some like running or, you know, more action related stuff.
Yeah,
Did you say
yeah.
prog rock?
Yeah, prog rock.
What did you draw that was prog rocky recently? It's such a specific reference.
Well, when I was working on the Waffle House one shot, I definitely had it on for some parts of that.
Nice.
But a lot of those like stuff that I do that like it's kind of like more like the like weirdo Americana stuff. I'll put on like rock. I mean, I'm a big rock fan, so
Yeah.
I do just, and I always kind of end up defaulting to that. But like it's just, it definitely is like a vibe that I try to match
Yeah.
with certain things.
Dope.
Yeah. I occasionally
Spike
stumble across like millennial and Zoomer essayists who will do like it's amazing because they'll do this crazy length shit that I absolutely don't care about. Like there'll be someone who's like, here are 10 hours on iCarly, and it's like iCarly is not in my rearview mirror. I was not, that was not part of my life. But I'm all like, it does go on for 10 hours and I don't have to look at the screen. So maybe I'll watch this guy talk about iCarly for 10 hours.
It might be good. You never know.
Yeah, exactly.
I watched FT Signifier's Kendrick
Oh,
Drake video.
That was
made to make
so
that video.
good. That is so good. That is such a good video. It's beautiful because it has context. Because the thing about the Kendrick Drake thing is there was like so much backstory that in the moment there was no time to explain to people.
Yeah, and
watching it go down.
I definitely didn't know any of the stuff that was covered in the video.
Yeah, it's like that was like, it was the rat beef equivalent of like, that had been a zit the size of a walnut and it had been kneading popping for years. And then when it finally happened, it was the most satisfying thing on earth. It happened better than anyone imagined it would happen, you know?
And Spike has made fun of me for this, is all of my musical knowledge is musicals. So I knew nothing. I went in completely blind.
Yeah.
That feels weirdly cultured, actually.
Yeah.
I know hardly any musicals. I'm pretty sure all the musicals I know are just rap albums pretending to be musicals.
So I told Spike I could not tell you anything about Kendrick's music until they eventually make a jukebox musical.
You know what?
Music. Then I'll be able to recognize his music.
This could very easily one day be some kind of musical, like the whole Drake Kendrick thing. Absolutely. But the thing that I always tell people is like, I think a lot of people who kind of aren't familiar don't have the tools to parse Kendrick as a conservative, but bro is my dad. He's just really, really conservative and kind of lets it slip from time to time. And it's one of those things where he's so fucking good. I let him get away with it. I let him get away with some shit he says. And I'm all like, oh, I don't like that, but it's a bop, so I'll allow it.
David, if you want to get into musicals, bootleg musicals are titled slime tutorials.
Kill's most treasured secret, yeah.
So if you Google a musical name, slime tutorial, you will get recordings of them.
Like
How do
Hamilton.
slime fans feel about this?
Hamilton slime tutorial.
Like, how do people who like slime feel about like being the musical bootlegging?
They're probably very mad about it. But the reason why that happened is because for a while, actual literal slime tutorials about how to make different types of slime were going viral. So it's like a way to slip under the radar because there were 9 million legitimate slime tutorial videos.
I see.
And now I think they have had to get slightly more clever because the ones I've been finding for more recent musicals, so the Groundhog Day musical is pretty good. And the slime tutorial I found for it was titled The Second Day of the Second Month Slime Tutorial.
Okay.
Man, it's like solving a puzzle.
Yeah, it makes me
Yeah.
think of back when people were on like Emule and Napster, and they would have to start altering ever so slightly the names of songs and the names of musicians to get the MP3s past the fucking filters that they were trying to stop the downloads through.
But yeah, the musical that I want to see that's most recent is the Some Like It Hot musical. Because they updated the plot to be because of our more broader view on gender and gender identity. Because if you don't know the plot to Some Like It's Hot,
Yeah.
it's two dudes disguise themselves as ladies because they're fleeing the mob.
Oh, okay.
And then one has a romance with Marilyn Monroe's character in the movie, but then the other keeps getting hit on by an elderly millionaire and decides to keep going on dates with said elderly millionaire. And so the musical updates it that character realizes that they're non-binary. And so I want to just see how the adaptation went. And it's on tour, and it's going to be in LA right like 2 days after San Diego next year. So I might go visit a friend in LA after San Diego and then go see it with them. Yes, it is Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon in the movie. Yes.
Yeah. See, all my exposure to musicals these days is just watching people who go to musicals obsessively and then post their reviews of how the latest like Spider-Man musical is horrific.
I mean, that is really old news, Spike. That's
Yeah.
like 10 years old as far as musicals go.
Yeah, but I also really enjoy. There's this one person. I think they're called Waiting in the Wings, where
Yes.
I originally found them because everyone knew the Cats movie was bad, but they were like, "No, you don't understand on a literal musical theater level why it is bad. Let me explain to you why it's bad from a musical theater perspective." And he just talks about how the entire like denouement is ruined and how the audience access character ruins everything, and how this song has these exact words about touch me, it's so easy to leave me, and then you have her rejecting being touched, and what the fuck, did you even watch the musical, I hate you. And it's perfect because it's a beautiful encapsulation of the rage of someone who cares too much in a way that is beautiful to behold.
It's also funny that it's the Cat musical that went so bad, because that thing that you just gave an example of, Spike, you don't even have to watch the musical to understand that you shouldn't do that. You just need to read the lyrics of the song that is being performed. Because I actually don't like the Cats musical because it doesn't have a plot, and it's basically Andrew Lloyd Webber going, "These are my OCs," the musical.
It is very. Cats is kind of fascinating on a musical level, from how kind of why it is the success it is, because you don't need to understand anything that's going on because there isn't a lot going on.
There isn't anything going on.
Yeah.
So the like director not seeing the original musical, I think that wouldn't have mattered if they read the lyrics of the songs that were being performed. So that's like, it is such a failure.
Yeah. Like nobody cared. It's like that's a thing I say sometimes when something just turns out really bad, like movie, TV, album. Like nobody cared, and that's what it felt like with Cats. Nobody cared.
Lindsay Ellis was briefly doing a musical podcast called Musicals Explained, and she talks about how they just picked the worst director because it's not so much that he didn't care; it's he actively hates things that aren't quote unquote realistic.
Oh, I hate that.
And like, musicals in of themselves live in a surreal reality,
Yeah.
Um,
Where people sing it, yeah.
so
Yeah.
because people randomly burst into song.
Yeah.
And so it's the fact that their cats randomly bursting into song is an extra step of surreality that it's like, why did you pick this man?
Yeah.
And I know the answer is because he directed Les Mis and won an Oscar for it.
Yeah.
But he is like the absolute worst person to direct the Cats musical. Someone who is weirder would have been a much better like fit.
Yeah. Abigail Lorraine, you're absolutely right. It wasn't Waiting in the Wings, it was Sideways. You're absolutely right.
But
Hey,
yes.
so unfortunately, I really need to take off to a class soon.
Oh, that's totally okay.
But
We'll
we
wrap
should,
it up.
we
There's
should
only 3 minutes
Yeah.
left, so yeah.
Okay, everybody. Alissa, where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, sorry about that. You can find me on the internet on Twitter and Instagram and Blue Sky, but I never use Blue Sky. As at Solitaire, so that's at sign SALLATAIRE, like you're playing the game Solitaire, but it's mixed with my last name. It's a pun I made like 10 years ago and didn't
Oh, I get
mind
it
to
now.
fix.
It works.
Yeah. And then you can also find my latest releases on Viz Media's. If you have the manga app, it's on there. It's the one-shot section. You can also find it online. You just go to Viz Media's website. They have a section for it. As well as my most recent book. Well, at this point, it's like almost 3 years old. But my graphic novel, Weeaboo, that came out in 2021. It's available at bookstores, comic stores, wherever you want to get your comics from.
Woohoo. David, what about you?
I am davidbrothers.com, has all my stuff. I do essays, I do photos on Instagram under David Brothers No Relation. I'm also on Blue Sky as Hermanos, which is a name I've managed to camp on a bunch of sites, which is kind of cool.
Woohoo.
Find me there. I talk about wrestling, comic books, and local politics.
Okay.
It took me until the Arrested Development episode where they all don't know what that means in Spanish for me to finally click why that's your username.
I really thought more people spoke Spanish in the US, but what can you do?
Yeah.
Well, no, it's the thing is I did know that, but it was just like I didn't. It's like, oh wait, yes.
Yeah.
For my part, I am Spike. You can find me on Blue Sky at Iron Spike, all one word. Right now, we have a backer kit running, which has a story in it by Alissa and David. It's called, the backer kit is for an anthology called Perfect Crime Party, featuring a cover by Jeff Smith. It is all about getting away with it. It's wonderful. It's diverse. It has so many different kinds of stories and so many different kinds of styles. And we are just over half funded with 3 weeks left to go. Please tell a friend. Please back the project. As for personally, I have also started a camaraderie. It's spelled just like it sounds. If you go to camaraderie with a y.co, that is where I have put a page where you can support me creating the webcomic, Blacada, which you have been watching me draw right now. Blacada, it's about crime, murder, revolution, and other things you do because you kinda have to. You can find it at http://blacada.com. There are about 55 pages up right now, but there's one more you can see if you pledge to my camaraderie. So yeah, that's how I'm trying to guilt myself into forcing me to make these pages more regularly.
I'll be brief because Alissa has to go. All my stuff's at kelmcdonald.com. I link all my social medias on there, but I hate social media, so I barely update them. So yeah, follow my website. Don't look at social media.
Yeah.
And I edited Perfect Crime Party. Please back it.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Catch you later.